Hello, veggie heads, and anyone else interested in veganism or trying out the lifestyle. Today, I wanted to shoot a video just to detail how life as a vegan has been so far. I've been a vegan strictly for the last 2 weeks and transitioned to it for about a week or two before that. It was a pretty quick transition. It all made sense, and once my mind was made up, I knew I wanted to go this route. I was convinced. I just did the switch. I didn't want to dick around. So the point of today's video really is just to kind of give a background and experience to those of you maybe who aren't vegan or are also considering making a journey. Just what I've experienced so far and the changes I've had to make and the places where I've bumped my head and where things have gone wrong or right, and also how I'm feeling and how it's affected me, how I've been affected by the food changes and choices that I've made. So let me just get stuck right into it. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that it was a very easy transition, right? It was quite easy to do. Like I said in the introduction, I basically did it overnight. It's simple enough. And the only real hassle that I had was with protein, which is to be expected considering that you eliminate all major sources of protein in animal products. So I'll go into the nutrition a little bit later in this video just to explain how I kind of supplemented that. But once I sorted that out, everything else seemed pretty straightforward from there. And the bonus that I've got from this is that my energy levels are great. And I've kind of had almost like this clarity and this mental fog that has just kind of disappeared, evaporated. And it's weird because I always thought I kind of had this kind of clarity before, but since switching to veganism, cutting out animal foods, and as a result of a lot of animal products, also a lot of junk food and that had animal products in, it's just like mental clarity, focus, sharpness, which has been great. So that's made things even better. And I've noticed that I'm waking up, my sleeping is a lot better. I'm waking up naturally in the morning without an alarm clock. I used to do that before, but I seem to be getting by with a little less sleep now. So I think I'm pretty good on like 6.5 hours sleep every night, sometimes 7. I just go naturally and see how it goes, but there's definitely been a bit of an improvement there. And I'm not getting any sort of energy slumps in the afternoon. So before I'd have to have coffee in the morning. I'd have to have coffee throughout the day, especially after a workout at the gym and lunch. I get this big crash and either I would sleep or I'd have to load up on coffee to work. And now most of that seems to be gone. Like I can sort of just continue straight through the day, and sure, I get little dips in there, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere as bad as what it used to be eating meat. Now, I'm guessing that a lot of this, as with most changes you make in your life, can be a bit of a placebo effect and sort of, in your imagination. So I don't want to say, make it out to be like these fantastic magical changes that happen, but I seem to notice something going on. If I take a step back and don't look at it too fantastically, I still seem to think that there's definitely been improvement. So that's good. When it comes to enjoying food, well, I almost don't feel like I'm missing out by cutting out meat, right? Sure, it's kind of harder, especially when you go to restaurants or you nip down to the convenience store, especially if you're trying to get a little snack or binge, then it's harder. But in terms of missing out, I don't think so. I found loads of great sort of meat replacement products, especially like these vegan type products, and like Linda McCartney. They've got these burgers, they've got sausages, they've got chicken sort of breast pieces and things like that. And that's really been helpful, especially the sausages. I mean, they're great. The sausages are high in protein, they're low in fat, and they're low in carbs. So you get kind of that protein kick from it without having any of the health detrimental effects that come with animal products. But you get to have sausage, and it's spiced the same, it tastes the same. So it's great. So I like that. And when it comes to binges and that, most of the food that I used to love binging on, like cookies and those types of things, muffins, all those sort of things, most of them you can't touch anymore unless you specifically find the vegan ones or you make your own. So it's not as easily accessible as it was. So every time you binge, you have to eat like kind of the vegan binge products. And that's, the things I've been binging on are like peanuts, nuts, popcorn, and those aren't the worst things in the world if you do binge on them. So Yeah, my favorite is vegan hot dogs. That's kind of my binge food. I just go buy a bun, you know, a normal white bun with a vegan sausage in it with a bit of tomato sauce, and that satisfies my binges and cravings, which is probably a lot better than all the cookies and ice cream and normal pizza that I would do when I got weak and I went on a binge or I had cravings. So that's pretty cool. I'm also eating a lot of beans and legumes because they have a nice balance of protein and carbs. Like the carb to protein balance in terms of grams per 100 is really close. So, you know, you're getting a lot of protein from beans if you eat a lot of beans, and a fair amount of carbs too, but not much fat. And that's great. It's really helping me meet my macros and totals for my workouts at the gym and just for recovery and all that. So I'm also I've also adjusted my macros slightly. So, you know, I kind of track my macros and my ratio of protein, fat, and carbs closely to go with my workouts and my training and my fitness. And since switching, I've actually lowered the protein slightly. I've lowered the fat slightly and increased the carbs slightly because obviously you're ingesting a lot more carbs through all the fruits and vegetables that you eat. So I've dropped those slightly just to see how that works out. And so far, no ill effects at the gym or with progress or anything like that. So yeah, so I'm not going to go into details about the macro split at the moment, but that's one thing I did want to raise. And then obviously I'm also still learning about all the different nutrients and minerals and the ones that you may be lacking when you switch to veganism, especially things like vitamin B12, vitamin D, and calcium. Now, the good news is that there are lots of fortified products out there like soya milk, which comes enriched with all those sort of nutrients and vitamins. And I seem to be able to meet my daily requirements and go beyond that based on the yogurts, the milks, and the enriched products that you find with these things in them. So that's good news. But just to play it safe, I've also ordered vitamin B12 supplements or vitamin B12s. I already take a vitamin D supplement anyway, and calcium seems to be fine. So I'll look out for any others that I might be missing out, and I hope to do a blood panel work, a full nutrient breakdown later in the year, just to see if I'm lacking anywhere, how my levels are looking, just in terms of general health, vitamins, nutrients, and that type of stuff. Then fiber intake, as can be expected, has skyrocketed due to all the fruits and vegetables I'm eating a tons of fruit and vegetables, even the meat products, the meatless products that they make with veggies and that. The great thing about them is they're high in fiber. So even though you think you're eating meat and you're getting your protein, you're also getting tons of fiber. And that's really good. It's obviously good for your gut health and the bacteria in your gut. You can only get benefits from having a high fiber diet. This is one of the key ingredients for managing weight and being healthy. And so, yeah, that's really cool as well. And you probably don't want to hear this, but I seem to be shitting about 2 to 3 times a day now, compared to before where I would go usually once a day or once every day or 2. And it seems to be quite a lot. So I think the fiber is doing its job and keeping me nice and light on my feet. All right. So then I thought I'd just touch on the kickback. You know, when you go vegan, and then listen, I used to do this myself as well. When you go vegan, or when you're not vegan, you bash the vegans, right? I used to see it on the Joe Rogan Experience, which I watched a lot, and I'd always see him bashing the vegans, and I would laugh, and I'd be like, ha ha ha, stupid vegans, idiots. Obviously, you need meat. Meat's good. Where are you gonna get your protein from? You know, and I used to follow the same line of thought because you don't really think. You know, you just go with the flow. You think that what you've been taught before is the right thing, and you just assume and you have fun and you go there. So naturally, I'm getting a lot of kickback and fun prodding at me and people making jokes about the veganism and that. And that's fine. I mean, I can deal with that, but you're just more aware of how not narrow-minded and ignorant, but just uneducated people are, right? And they just, you know, I mean, people like us that spend so much of our days investigating these things, researching it, and that took us quite a while, you know, to make the conversion. But for those people, you know, they barely have half an hour free in a day to read a book or pick their nose. You know, they've got busy lives, they're working, they've got normal jobs, they've got families. They really have no free time to even think about health and stuff like that. So it can be expected. And finally, the last thing I wanted to say, I was on a trip this weekend, and when you go on these long trips, you stop off at the service stations, you know, to kind of top up your coffee and get a bit of a kick for the long drive ahead. And I stopped off for my first cup of coffee. Delicious, got a Costa coffee, cappuccino from the machine, was drinking it. Couple of, half an hour or two, sorry, about maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, stopped at the next service station to get another coffee. And then I realized, looking at the menu, they had black coffee, and I realized I have to have that because I don't have milk. And then I realized back, oh shit, I'd ordered a cappuccino from the Costa coffee machine. It was kind of like habit, it was like automated, didn't think about it. It's what you normally do. Just press the button, get your coffee and go. And I realized you can't even have the Costa coffees anymore because they have milk in when they're making the cappuccino. So I was like, shit. So it's kind of funny how, a lot of things you program to do, you don't even think about it. And then you just get this kind of awakening one day and it clicks. So that was pretty interesting. So now I've got to have this vile black coffee when I go up, which is not great, but I mean, I drink it normally anyway here at home. So it's not the end of the world. And then finally, before I go, I was staying on kind of like a guest house where they had a bit of an open, small holding with a couple of chickens and a few animals and that. Really well kept and treated. And the next morning, the lady or the owner of the guest house brought me 4 fresh eggs from her chicken. And initially I was like, thank you, but, I initially thought, I've already eaten whatever because I knew I couldn't eat the eggs. But then I thought about it and I was like, well, why can't I eat these eggs, right? And I came to a bit of a decision about this as a vegan. And if you want to know what I thought, just look out for my next video. I'm going to do a video straight after this about my decision and my thoughts about whether those eggs, could be eaten or not as a vegan. So if you were interested in that, you'll find it in the next video. But I'm done with this one. Thanks for watching, and I will certainly keep you updated on my vegan process. You can see other videos on my channel in the vegan playlist that I've created called My Vegan Journey. I discuss other things like supplements and protein and all my other experiences so far, but I just wanted to give you an update on how things are going and how I've adapted, and hopefully that's going to help you if you've got any questions or if you've been considering switching yourself. So thanks for watching, and thanks for joining me on my vegan journey, and I will talk to you soon.